this newscast, close to 16 persons sustained severe injuries following a fatal road accident that occurred in Maifor Limbe, southwest region of the country. And also in this newscast, several Cameroonians stranded after Equatorial Guinea closed its borders with Cameroon. And it is coming at a time when free circulation in CEMAC zones was expected to go into effect this January 2014. Plus, Cameroon's former Minister of National Education, Robert Mbella Mbappe, is no more. These are headlines, details and more just in a moment. Good evening to you viewers. Welcome to join us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away with a fatal road accident that occurred in Maifor Limbe that left almost a dozen or over dozens of persons severely injured. They are currently receiving medical attention in hospital in that part of the country. It followed a private car that lost control and came head-on with a bus transporting the victims on board. Pamela Ndukong has more on that story.
The accident occurred along the Maifor Limbe Highway Road, involving the Carina E and a bus transporting market women to Limbe. Sources say the private car is said to have left its track and collided with the bus carrying 16 persons.
I see when the motor they come down. As I hear boom.
This man, an eyewitness, says they arrived at the scene when the driver was unconscious and tied in the car. The population had to hit the door of the car with an iron in order to remove the driver and the wounded victims. According to the eyewitness, most of the victims were unconscious immediately after the accident. The victims were immediately rushed to a nearby hospital in Maifor Limbe, where they are currently receiving treatment.
Still in the southwest region of the country, this time around we take you to Tole, where an uneasy calm reigns in that part of the southwest region of the country. That is precisely in the Boya subdivision after angry locals vandalized houses, vehicles and stores of some 20 persons suspected to belong to a sect. The alleged accused or the alleged occultists are said to have caused ill luck to the population of Tole. And this was the aftermath of a revelation made by one of a certain business magnate that by name Joseph Womela on the devilish activities carried out on the population. And sources said he got mad, or the population got mad after his confession, and the locals are still attacking and destroying houses of these persons, even though they are said to be on the run. And it should be noted that security forces in that part of the country did all they could to bring calm in the area. We shall be coming back to that in our subsequent newscast. Now to the central region of Cameroon, inhabitants of Acacia can now heave a sigh of relief after fractured pipes which were spilling waste on the road have been repaired. Agents of the Yaoundé City Council carried out the repair works after reports of how the situation left inhabitants of that particular locality in a very, very uncomfortable. And from the central region of Cameroon, Roland Akong tells us more.
Regardez le cacaci, c'est en train de nous faire mal.
Mixture of waste from the human body and used water from houses were slopping all over some Acacia roads, provoking a stench and sight residents could not bear.
C'est bizarre, vraiment ça, c'est une honte pour nous.
After critical media reports about the situation, the Yaoundé City Council at the weekend repaired the burst pipes.
Oui, ça va un peu, ça va.
But not to the satisfaction of the residents who fear the problem is likely to resurface as they believe the solution is not permanent.
Après, ça fait encore, ça monte. Donc, vraiment, c'est bizarre.
Potholes where the waste waters stagnated have also been filled with soil by the urban council. Acacia residents are demanding that incomplete works on the main road and secondary roads should be completed by the urban and rural councils respectively.
We stay with you, Roland Akong. This time around, we talk about the death of Cameroon's former Minister of National Education, Robert Mbella Mbappe, who is no more. He passed on Saturday in France, or in Paris, France, following a protracted illness, and Mr. Mbella Mbappe died at the age of 77.
At the Yaoundé residence of Robert Mbella Mbappe behind the Nigerian High Commissioner's residence, Family relatives of the Mike say Mbila Mbappe died at the American hospital in France during the night of Saturday, 4 January 2014, after a protracted illness. He had been afflicted by Parkinson's disease, hypertension, and several chronic conditions. He had also become bedfast and spent 4 months abroad to be treated. Relatives also say funeral plans are still being worked out, and it is expected that he will get a state-sponsored burial, which is the habitual for people of his standing. Robert Mbila Mbappe, whose long political career included positions as Minister of National Education, Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Minister of Justice, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, died at the age of 77. Mbila Mbappe, President Biya's classmate at Lycée Leclerc General in Yaoundé, spent an uninterrupted 2 decades as minister from 1983 to 2000, when he was last appointed. He also served as Chancellor of the University of Yaoundé and the Director of Civil Cabinet at the presidency. The former minister was nicknamed Petit Robert because of his stature and brains. He held a doctorate degree in private law from the Faculty of Law in Bordeaux, France.
As we announced in the headlines, reports from the south region of Cameroon say Equatorial Guinea has closed its borders with Cameroon at QC, that is to be more precise, and also in Campo. Many persons have been left stranded, especially students who had to either leave Guinea to Cameroon or otherwise, or vice versa, to resume classes. And the move by the government of Equatorial Guinea is coming to confirm Obiangema's stance on visa requirements for CEMAC citizens and free circulation in the 6 CEMAC country states, or the 6 member states of CEMAC, was supposed to go into effect, as we earlier indicated, this January 1st, 2014. A guest who is a barrister at law will be telling us more on that in the second part of this newscast. Meantime, poor health and insecurity have been identified as some of the major problems plaguing the people of Buea in the southwest region of Cameroon. Some elites of the region from the UK raised the issue during a meeting to address the plights of the people of the southwest region of the country. Derek Jato has more on that story.
These Buea sons and daughters, based in the United Kingdom, says the fast developing cosmopolitan town of Buea is also growing with a lot of problems, with public insecurity and health taking the lead.
The recent road traffic accidents in the Tiko Douala road. We want to take people off the streets, people who drink and drive. We want to help the police with alcohol testing on the streets. Buea UK is suggesting that we should have a clear and established guidelines for the management of patients.
And the reasons for this meeting dot the Buea UK summit that saw the participation of some authorities of the region was to chart the way forward.
There are certain issues that the local authorities and the transport office should take in consideration before issuing licenses to professionals, to drivers, to taxi holders, to HMA, high vehicle drivers. They should all do what we call a speed awareness course.
Aware of the challenges, the chairman, Mr. Walla Henry, says they are here not to step on others' shoes, but to act on.
We have not come here to compete with people. We have not come here to fight against people. We have come here to do an add-on onto what they have done.
With the Buea problems already diagnosed, the Buea people now wait to see how their children will transform the town.
Some elites of the southwest region there addressing the plights of the people in that part of the country. Meantime, some 29 elements of the Rapid Intervention Battalion, that is the B, received epaulettes of varied ranks at the B headquarters in Jabane, Bakassi. The ceremony, as Davison Maimo, Alimbe B's correspondent, tells us, was to appreciate and recognize excellence. His report. In my more, we surely shall be coming back to that in our subsequent editions. Meantime, we take you right away to news out of Cameroon. Thousands of African migrants in Israeli city gathered in the main square on Sunday, that was yesterday, to stage a massive protest. The migrants are demonstrating in disapproval of a controversial new law which will allow Israeli migration officials to detain people without valid visas indefinitely. Let's have the details of that report with Franz Van Kat.
Crying out that they need asylum, thousands of migrants in Tel Aviv protest against Israel's new law allowing for the detention of those without valid visas. Migrants, mainly from Eritrea and Sudan, complain that after escaping human rights abuses at home, they're treated in Israel like criminals instead of being accepted as refugees.
We are asking the Israeli government three simple things. First is to cancel the new law and release all the prisoners. Second is to check our asylum request in a fair and transparent way.
The new law allows migrants who have entered the country clandestinely to be detained for up to a year without trial. Israeli authorities say that more than 50,000 such migrants have entered Israel, crossing its previously porous borders with Egypt, until the border was reinforced and Israel's immigration laws were tightened.
In 2013, we saw a complete halt to the phenomenon of illegal migration into Israel, and at the same time, a six-fold increase in the number of illegal migrants who left Israel. These are not refugees, but people who are breaking the law and whom we will deal with to the fullest extent of the law.
The new law is the latest in a series of moves cracking down on what Israel calls illegal immigration. In December, a new prison facility was opened in the south to house migrants who crossed the border from Egypt without the proper papers. In 2010, Israel began building an electric fence along its border with Egypt to cut down on the number of migrants secretly entering the country.
Still in news out of Cameroon, at least 11 people were recently shot dead in Egypt as supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood clashed with the police and law enforcement officers in the country, having acting on the government's crackdown order. Let's have the details once again with Franz Van Kat.
Fireworks in the Egyptian capital as protests spark violent clashes across the country. In Cairo, Muslim Brotherhood members and supporters petrol-bombed a police vehicle and threw stones at authorities, who responded with tear gas. With the threat of arrest hanging over them, demonstrators defied the military-backed government and took to the streets. They've been holding daily demonstrations since the army declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist group last week.
Every Friday they organise protests, they beat people up and they destroy cars. They say they're peaceful protesters, but they're not.
Demonstrations did begin peacefully after Friday prayers, but soon turned violent after clashes with anti-Morsi protesters. In Cairo, police sealed off the city's main squares with vehicles and barbed wire. In Ismailia, male and female protesters were heard to shout, "Down with the military rule." Those chants aimed towards Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who led the ousting of former Muslim Brotherhood-backed President Mohamed Morsi in July. There were also demonstrations in Alexandria, Fayoum and Minya. In all, over 100 people have been arrested and dozens injured, some fatally. The clashes come less than 2 weeks before the interim government votes on a new constitution. Army-backed authorities say the violence will not derail the political transition plan that aims to pave a return to democratic rule by next summer.
And that does it for this segment of the news. Up next, we talk about free circulation in CEMAC zones, which seems to be a problem to member countries. Good evening to you viewers once again. Welcome to join us tonight on Talking Point. Our guest is a barrister at law. Good evening to you, Mr. Roland Abe. Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure, Mimi.
It's my pleasure as well. And free circulation, as I indicated, is what we are going to be talking about precisely in the CEMAC zone, which seems to be a problem. That is precisely free movement of persons and goods in the 6 member states that are supposed to go into, it was supposed to go into effect some 5 days ago, precisely on the 1st of January 2014. When we are talking about the 6 member states, we are talking about Gabon, Congo, Cameroon, Chad, just to name a few. But apparently Guinea seems to have backed out. Before we get to find out why Guinea doesn't want to be part of this initiative that has been going on for more than 5 years, let's say close to 10 years now, what could be impeding free circulation in CEMAC zones?
I'm sure when you talk of Guinea, you mean Equatorial Guinea?
Yeah.
Yes. Just so a number of things have come into play here, and we should understand that there are more factors that play for free circulation of goods and persons in the CEMAC zone than in the ECOWAS region. The CEMAC zone, they have one currency from the time of UDEAC. It's an economic and customs union, the CEMAC. And the people are related. I mean, there are people who speak the same dialect in Yaoundé like in Malabo. They are neighboring countries. So there are more things that play in favor of this free circulation, of this, this cherished free circulation of goods and persons. The problem is a bit of xenophobia, ignorance, people are not, our leaders are not proactive, and you name the rest. This is what is impeding, in effect, as a matter of fact, this free circulation of goods and persons. Now, when the leaders of this CEMAC region met in June last year, all of them agreed. All of the leaders, including that of Equatorial Guinea, agreed that from 1st of January 2014, it will be effective. You will not need a passport to move into, a visa.
Except a biometric passport.
Yes, once you have a biometric passport, you can move into the next country, into one of these countries in the zone. Now, on November 8th, Equatorial Guinea unilaterally decided not to be part of this again. So, what do you want me to say? I think our leaders need to sit up, and the trend is that countries come together for free circulation of goods and persons. That's the trend. That is what happens, especially now in the 21st century. It's shocking that in the CEMAC region, we are where we find ourselves.
For countries to come together, you were talking about they have a lot of things in common that you have so far cited in terms of money, in terms of other things. Is that all that is needed? And the biometric passport for free circulation?
What I'm saying, I did a comparison of the CEMAC region and the ECOWAS region. Now, the CEMAC region is an economic and monetary union already. We have one currency, we have one custom tariff, we have so many things that play in common. Unlike the ECOWAS zone, where you have Ghana, you have Senegal, you have Francophone and Anglophone countries. But people circulate there better. You can take a bus from Accra and move to Lagos with very few controls. I'm not sure that doesn't happen between Cameroon and the Central African Republic, or between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. You yourself said during the news that the border town of Kiosi, or that the borders between Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon have been closed. It is really cruel. You can imagine that families from Cameroon find themselves for holidays in Equatorial Guinea, and they cannot come back for school reopening because the borders are closed. What explains that?
Probably it has to take more than just the biometric passport.
Of course, yes.
We need to be guaranteed.
We need to have a very reliable data on all our citizens. We need that. That's true. So many things have to come into play. But when the presidents themselves decide that this is an ideal, that this should happen, we think that those other complaints are very minimal, should not impede the takeoff of this initiative. Remember that a country will benefit better, because one of the arguments of the Equatorial Guineans is that they want to protect their local jobs. But listen, the whole of Equatorial Guinea is not up to the population of Douala. It's about 600,000 people. They need, with all the projects that they have, they need expertise. Equatorial Guineans themselves even come to Cameroon to learn the language, English, to learn French, to learn other skills. it's important when we harness our efforts as a region, we can move further. We can move forward. It's
just like the International Monetary Fund is suggesting that regional integration will benefit the CEMAC zone.
You know, when we disagree as a region, Europe profits. We cannot be talking against neo-colonialism. We cannot be complaining that African countries do not trade between themselves when we close our very borders. It's really unpardonable.
So the decision of Equatorial Guinea is practically unfounded, according to you?
Well, to me, there is any other reason. It's really minimal. It has to do with egoism. It has to do with xenophobia, and there's some degree of ignorance on the part of the Equatorial Guinean authorities. It can only be beneficial to them if they make it possible for people to get in a secure way. Now, if you have your passport, we are not saying that illegal immigrants should get into any country. It's controlled everywhere. But I mean, you should take example for what's happening in the Schengen countries. You can have breakfast in France, in Paris, have lunch in Brussels, and have dinner in Munich. In 3 different countries. It can happen the same way in Cameroon. We cannot develop when we stop our citizens that speak the same language, that have the same culture from moving. I mean, remember that Douala serves as a port for 2 of these countries, Chad and the Central African Republic.
And how is it going to have, what impact?
It would appear that Cameroon already has a free circulation agreement with Central African Republic and with Chad. But we need to cooperate as a region, the CEMAC region, so that our region we cannot talk of African unity, of the United Africa, when we cannot even talk of United CEMAC. It's not founded.
Probably apart from the issue of trying to secure its job, the issue of insecurity as well.
Well, this insecurity is something that you permanently fight for. There's no guarantee that Equatorial Guinea is more secured now that they've closed their borders with Cameroon than when there's no guarantee. I think this issue of security it's a fake complaint. It's not founded. We need, as a region, we need, as a country, each country individually needs to come up with a way of making its borders secure. Now you make sure that, how do people get into your country? It's not because they don't have passports, it's because you allow them in somehow. But I think that if we do a secure database, just like it's done in other countries, we can, as a region, as a CEMAC region, make it possible for our citizens, for goods to circulate without problems. It's impeding on our economies, especially that of Cameroon.
Do you think that the decision of Equatorial Guinea could have an impact on the decision of other African countries that are involved? Part of
there are five. CEMAC is made up of 6 countries.
Yeah.
Now, 4 countries amongst the 6 countries already have free circulation. The problem was with the Equatorial Guinea and Gabon. Now, Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, the 2 of these countries have an agreement for free circulation of goods and people. The problem is not within each individual country. The issue should be solved as a whole in the CEMAC region. I don't think that Cameroon agreeing with Equatorial Guinea for free circulation of goods and people should be done at the detriment of the 4 other countries. We think that these 6 countries, because they agreed, because that's what their ideal, to do an airlines, the CEMAC airlines, when they agreed on having a system where people and goods could move without problems. I think it's in our interest as a region to have this applied. The ECOWAS is already doing that. The South African community is already doing that.
And it will only be beneficial.
And somebody is saying that the devil, Lucifer, lives in Central Africa, because we in Central Africa have not been able to even do the basic things that will make us move forward. Central Africa, we are part of the problem in the CEMAC region. CEMAC presidents are part of the problem in Central African Republic today. They have not been able to come up with a solution. We need to move freely. We need a solution to all of that. Now, what I'm trying to say is that until our leaders sit up
An initiative that has been on the pipeline since the year 2001.
Yes.
What does this CEMAC zone stand to lose as a result of?
It stands to lose its hypocrisy, first of all, to talk of African integration when we as a region, when we as countries of a particular group cannot agree on basic issues. Don't talk about economic and monetary union when we can move. Don't talk about, I'm giving you the impacts. Don't talk about African unity. Don't talk, I mean, it's difficult for me to go to Gabon or to Equatorial Guinea. More difficult than going to Paris. We should not blame the white man for a problem that we can solve.
Thank you so much, Barrister Roland Abeng, for joining us tonight on Talking Point to our viewers. We thank you so much for having joined us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Good evening once again. Up next is the Zone 2.